In recent years, Russia has been in the news for various reasons, including the annexation of Crimea, allegations of election interference, and the poisoning of political dissidents. But what lies beneath the surface of this powerful nation, and what will happen when its long-standing leader, Vladimir Putin, eventually steps down? In this video, we'll explore the darker aspects of Russian politics, society, and economy, and examine what the future may hold for this enigmatic country. Join us as we delve into the complex and often unsettling realities of Russia today. Before we begin, make sure that you've subscribed to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon to keep yourself updated with our regular uploads. The Putin era. Vladimir Putin has been in power in Russia for over 2 decades, first as Prime Minister from 1999 to 2000, then as President from 2000 to 2008, then again as Prime Minister from 2008 to 2012, and finally as President since 2012. During his tenure, he's implemented various policies that have shaped the country's politics, economy, and society. In terms of politics, Putin has centralized power in the presidency, curtailed political freedoms, and suppressed dissent. He has cracked down on independent media, opposition parties, and civil society organizations. The state controls most major media outlets, and the judiciary is not independent. Elections have been marred by irregularities and allegations of fraud. In terms of the economy, Putin has overseen the growth of state-owned enterprises and the consolidation of economic power in the hands of a few oligarchs. He has also implemented policies to diversify the economy away from its reliance on natural resources, particularly oil and gas. However, corruption remains a major problem in Russia, and the country's economy has been hit hard by Western sanctions and falling oil prices. In terms of society, Putin has promoted conservative values and traditionalist views while cracking down on LGBTQ rights and other social movements. He's also stoked nationalist sentiment, particularly in the wake of the annexation of Crimea. Critics argue that Putin's policies have exacerbated social inequality and stifled freedom of expression. As Putin approaches his twilight years, there is much speculation about his succession and the future of Russian politics. Some analysts predict a smooth transition of power, while others fear political turmoil and instability. Regardless of what happens, it is clear that Putin's legacy will continue to shape Russia for years to come. Human rights and political repression. Under Putin's leadership, Russia has been criticized for its human rights record and the suppression of political dissent. The government has been accused of clamping down on freedom of speech, assembly, and association. In particular, the persecution of opposition figures, journalists, and civil society activists has drawn international condemnation. The most prominent case of political repression in Russia in recent years is the arrest and imprisonment of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Navalny, who is known for his anti-corruption investigations and activism, was arrested upon his return to Russia in January 2021 after receiving medical treatment in Germany for the poisoning that he blames on the Russian government. He was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison on charges of violating parole, which many believe were politically motivated. Other opposition figures have also faced harassment, imprisonment, and violence. For example, journalist and activist Ilya Azar was sentenced to 15 days in jail for participating in peaceful protest against the arrest of Navalny. Human rights groups have documented cases of torture and mistreatment of political prisoners, as well as restrictions on the work of civil society organizations. Despite these concerns, the Russian government maintains that it upholds the rule of law and protects the rights of the citizens. However, the continued repression of political dissent and human rights abuses remain a major challenge for Russia's democratic future. Corruption and the oligarchs. Corruption has been a persistent problem in Russia, and under Putin's leadership, the country has been criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability. The government has been accused of cronyism and favoritism towards the country's powerful oligarchs who control much of Russia's wealth and resources. The term oligarch refers to a small group of extremely wealthy individuals who have amassed their wealth through various means, including privatization of state assets, political connections, and business monopolies. Many of these oligarchs are believed to have close ties to Putin and his government, which has led to allegations of corruption and influence peddling. One of the most high-profile cases of corruption in recent years is the so-called Magnitsky affair. Sergei Magnitsky was a Russian lawyer who uncovered a massive fraud scheme involving tax officials and oligarchs. He was arrested and imprisoned, and despite pleas for medical attention, he died in custody in 2009. The case has become a symbol of corruption and impunity in Russia and led to the passage of the Magnitsky Act in the United States, which imposed sanctions on Russian officials believed to be involved in Magnitsky's death. The Russian government has denied allegations of corruption and cronyism and has taken some steps to combat corruption in recent years, including the creation of a national anti-corruption agency and the prosecution of some high-profile cases. However, critics argue that these measures are insufficient and that corruption remains endemic in the country. The influence of the oligarchs in Russian politics and economy also remains a concern. The concentration of economic power in the hands of a few individuals has led to a lack of competition and innovation and has contributed to social inequality. The Russian government has been criticized for not doing enough to promote economic diversification and reduce the influence of the oligarchs. Economic challenges and dependence on natural resources. Russia's economy is heavily dependent on natural resources, particularly oil and gas exports, which account for a significant portion of the country's revenue. This dependence has made the country vulnerable to fluctuations in global energy prices and has limited economic diversification. Under Putin's leadership, the Russian government has implemented policies aimed at modernizing the economy and reducing dependence on natural resources. However, progress has been slow and the country continues to face economic challenges. One of the biggest economic challenges facing Russia is the decline in population. The country's population has been shrinking since the 1990s and is projected to decline further in the coming decades. This demographic decline has led to a shortage of skilled workers and has put a strain on the country's social services, such as healthcare and pensions. Another economic challenge is the lack of foreign investment in the country. Despite efforts to attract foreign investment, including the creation of special economic zones and the simplification of investment procedures, many foreign investors remain wary of the country's political and economic stability. Furthermore, economic sanctions imposed by Western countries in response to Russia's actions in Ukraine and other international disputes have had a significant impact on the country's economy. The sanctions have targeted key sectors such as energy, finance and defense, and have limited Russia's access to international markets and technology. The Russian government has responded to these challenges with various economic policies, including import substitution, industrial modernization, and infrastructure development. However, the effectiveness of these policies remain to be seen, and the country's economic outlook remains uncertain. International relations. Russia's foreign policy under Putin's leadership has been characterized by a desire to reassert Russian influence on the world stage and promote its interests, often at the expense of Western countries. This has led to tensions and conflicts with the United States, the European Union, and NATO. Russia's actions in Ukraine, including its annexation of Crimea in 2014 and support for separatist rebels in eastern Ukraine, have led to international condemnation and sanctions from Western countries. The conflict in Syria has also drawn Russia into the international arena, with the country supporting the government of Bashar al-Assad and opposing Western intervention in the country. The future of Russia after Putin's departure remains uncertain and poses significant challenges in various areas. The country faces many internal and external obstacles that could hinder its development and stability in the long run. It is critical for Russia to address these challenges and work towards a more prosperous and democratic future. Do let us know in the comments below what you think of this video. Also, give this video a huge thumbs up if you liked it.